Do you remember that atmosphere? That unbelievable energy where every game felt bigger than basketball itself? The kind of moment where you knew you were watching history unfold in real time. Just 2 years ago, when Caitlin Clark walked into Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles, nearly 19,000 fans filled every seat in the building. The noise was deafening. The excitement around women's basketball had reached a level the league had never seen before. The WNBA was exploding in popularity. Jerseys and merchandise were selling out almost instantly. Ticket demand was through the roof. Team owners were watching revenues climb higher than ever, and every road game featuring Clark felt like a championship event. No matter the city, arenas were packed. Every matchup felt unmissable. But now, the situation looks completely different. And for a lot of people around the league, it's starting to feel deeply concerning. What we're seeing today should have WNBA executives and franchise owners seriously worried behind the scenes. Welcome back to WNBA Pro. Today we're diving into a growing issue that many fans believe the league doesn't want to openly address. Frustration is building fast, trust is fading, and the reaction surrounding ticket sales for the Indiana Fever versus the Los Angeles Sparks may be exposing a much larger problem hiding underneath the surface. Now, here's where things get really interesting. According to reports, the Fever are entering this matchup with a completely healthy roster. No major injuries listed, no restrictions announced. For the first time in a long time, Indiana's injury report is reportedly clean from top to bottom. Normally, that kind of news would send fans racing to buy tickets. A healthy Caitlin Clark-led Fever team should be one of the hottest attractions in sports right now. On paper, this should be a massive win for the franchise. But instead of excitement, the response from many fans has been hesitation, skepticism, and in some cases, outright distrust. A large portion of the fan base simply does not believe everything they're being told by head coach Stephanie White or the Fever organization. And considering everything that happened last season, it's not hard to understand why. Many supporters still feel burned by what they viewed as poor communication and questionable handling of key situations throughout the year. Those frustrations never fully disappeared, and now they're resurfacing at the worst possible time for the league.
Rumor has it, don't blink now, but there are no reported injuries. Allegedly, we're heading into this game with
a lot of fans feel like they've spent months being misled by the organization. The frustration didn't come out of nowhere. People still remember the constant uncertainty surrounding Caitlin Clark's injury situation last season. One day it was being described as a serious back issue. Then suddenly the narrative shifted and it was labeled as nothing more than an alignment concern. Fans also haven't forgotten those nationally televised moments when Clark unexpectedly left the bench multiple times to head back to the locker room, leaving everyone confused about what was really happening behind the scenes. So now, when supporters see a perfectly clean injury report, many of them are responding with skepticism instead of confidence. They're asking tough questions that the franchise may not want to answer publicly. Will Caitlin Clark actually be allowed to play full minutes? Or will there be some quiet limitation nobody mentions until tip-off? Is Monique Billings truly ready to take on a major role? Or will her court time suddenly be managed far more carefully than expected? And if the game comes down to the final minutes again, are fans going to watch Aaliyah Boston disappear from the floor during the most important stretch of the night? That uncertainty is exactly what's making so many people uneasy right now.
Minutes restriction, everybody. Is Caitlin Clark going to be on minute restriction with this ghost back issue? That's not a ghost back issue, but it's just realignment. Is Monique Billings going to come back and be fully thrown into the lineup, or are we going to put her on minutes restriction? Is Aaliyah Boston still going to sit the fourth quarter, or is she still on minutes restriction? Is Lexi Hull?
At this point, many fans just aren't willing to take the organization at its word anymore. Across social media, reactions are pouring in from frustrated supporters who still feel burned by everything that happened last season. A lot of them remember spending huge amounts of money on tickets, travel, and hotels, only to arrive at the arena and discover star players unavailable or sitting on the bench out of uniform. And fans definitely haven't forgotten the situation involving Chloe Bibby. The team reportedly signaled she was healthy and ready to return, creating excitement heading into the game, only for her to suddenly reappear on the injury report at the last possible moment. To many supporters, that didn't feel like simple confusion or bad timing. It felt like fans were being strung along. That's why the anger has grown so intense. People feel like they invested their time, money, and loyalty into the franchise, only to be left in the dark when it mattered most. And once that trust starts to disappear, rebuilding it becomes incredibly difficult. But this situation is becoming much bigger than online criticism or frustrated comment sections. Because now the financial side of the business is starting to feel the impact too. And when you look past the emotions and focus on the numbers, the warning signs become impossible to ignore. Clip
on the Fever injury report. It's been 2 years since I've seen them say no injuries. Me still living through the PTSD of last season. I feel like I should frame this. Are you sure you're sure? It's been a while. So no minute restrictions on AB, Lexi Hull, CC, and Monique Billings. Will the game be worth tuning in?
Now, shift your attention to the upcoming matchup in Los Angeles. This is Caitlin Clark we're talking about. The player who was supposed to turn every road game into a major event. On paper, this should be one of the biggest draws of the season, but when fans checked the seeding map for Crypto.com Arena, the situation looked shocking. Large portions of the upper bowl, especially the entire 300 level, appeared completely unavailable. Entire sections weren't even open for ticket sales, and that tells you something important. Behind the scenes, arena officials and team executives clearly looked at the projected attendance numbers and made a business decision that demand simply wasn't strong enough to justify opening the full building. Think about how significant that is. Instead of preparing for a packed crowd, they're reportedly condensing fans into the lower sections to make the arena appear fuller on television. It's a strategy designed to avoid the visual disaster of empty seats during a nationally broadcast game. For a matchup that should have felt like a major showcase for the league, the optics are creating serious questions about where fan confidence and ticket demand actually stand right now. Clipping.
It doesn't look like they're selling tickets for the upper deck. Caitlin Clark's first game against Los Angeles Sparks, her rookie year, they said a new Crypto.com arena, I believe packing 19,000 individuals in that building. 19,000 individuals in that building. And fast forward 2 years later, here we are not selling the top row, the top sections anymore. Section 300.
And don't assume the lower level is packed either, because the ticket listings tell a completely different story. When you pull up the seating map, there are blue dots everywhere. Thousands of unsold seats still sitting on the market. Even more surprising, prices have dropped dramatically. Fans can now grab seats in section 101, close to the court, for around $100. Some tickets directly behind the basket are going for nearly half that price. Not long ago, during the height of the Caitlin Clark ticket frenzy, seats in those areas would have been almost impossible to afford whenever the Fever came to town. Think about how different things looked just weeks earlier. For Indiana's home opener, even some of the least desirable seats were reportedly approaching $900 because demand was so insane. But now, for a road game that should still be considered a major attraction, the market has cooled off in a massive way. Many frustrated fans are pointing fingers at head coach Stephanie White and the organization's handling of the team, believing the constant uncertainty has damaged confidence around the product itself. And the bigger issue is that the financial impact is no longer isolated to Indiana. The ripple effects are starting to spread across the league. Clip.
Go to standard only, you'll notice that there's still a shit ton of seats available. 180, 130 bucks. I mean, these are cheap prices, folks. $100 to sit in section 101. $188 to sit in section 110. Behind the basket at $55, $56, $76 behind.
This is no longer just an Indiana Fever issue. What's happening right now is becoming a serious financial red flag for the entire WNBA. Think about where the league currently stands. The WNBA has been aggressively building toward a new era of growth, expanding into new markets, negotiating a major collective bargaining agreement, and positioning itself for a massive jump in media rights value that could approach nearly $1 billion. That kind of money depends on momentum, excitement, and fan confidence staying strong across the league, but that becomes much harder to sell when the league's biggest attraction is suddenly connected to declining ticket demand, frustrated fans, and arenas that don't appear close to full. Executives around the WNBA are absolutely paying attention to this. this. Teams in multiple cities are already dealing with attendance concerns. In Atlanta, there are reports of large amounts of unsold inventory still sitting available for games. Washington has also seen noticeable attendance drops compared to the peak excitement surrounding Caitlin Clark's arrival in the league. And that matters because when Indiana travels, many franchises count on those games to generate some of their biggest revenue nights of the season. Those matchups drive ticket sales, merchandise, parking, concessions, and local buzz. The economic structure around the league is more connected than many fans realize. If supporters begin pulling back because they feel misled or disconnected from the product, the consequences spread fast. Lower attendance turns into weaker merchandise sales. Empty seats hurt the television presentation. Falling ratings weaken negotiating power for future broadcast deals. Suddenly, the dream of a massive new media rights agreement becomes far more complicated. At the end of the day, sports organizations cannot afford to lose credibility with their audience. Once fans stop trusting what they're being told, rebuilding that relationship becomes incredibly difficult. Now, putting the business conversation aside for a moment, the actual basketball matchup tonight is still extremely intriguing. If Indiana truly allows its core players to operate without hidden restrictions or unexpected limitations, this lineup has serious potential.
Telling you, it's not just the Indiana Fever feeling the Stephanie White effect. It's going to be other owners across the league as well when they're asking themselves, why aren't we packing this out like we did a few years ago? Why are our merchandise sales down? Why are our concessions down? Why aren't we receiving this from that? Why aren't we receiving that from this? I saw Rudy's video the other day. Shout out to Rudy. Coming out of the podcast. Go subscribe. He went more in depth. Washington Mystics game.
A starting group featuring Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Sophie Cunningham, Monique Billings, and Aaliyah Boston has the talent to compete with anybody when everything is clicking. But execution is going to matter. Sophie Cunningham especially needs to make a strong impact. Indiana needs her running the floor in transition, connecting on open, perimeter shots created by Clark's passing, and holding her ground defensively against a physical opponent. And the Sparks are going to challenge them. Los Angeles has size, length, and toughness in the front court that could create real problems inside the paint. This won't be an easy matchup physically. Still, the biggest battle surrounding the Fever right now isn't happening during the game itself. It's happening off the court. Can the organization rebuild trust with its own fans? Can they convince people that the uncertainty and confusion from the past are behind them? And can they stop the growing concerns surrounding the league's business momentum before those issues become even more damaging? Long term, right now, fans are sending a very clear message with their wallets and their ticket buying decisions. Trust has been shaken. So, what do you think? Has the Indiana Fever organization done permanent damage to its relationship with the fan base? Or can winning games and being transparent turn things around? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe to WNBA Pro for more in-depth coverage and analysis. And I'll catch you in the next one.